Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening, everyone. I'm the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, he who remains, the Phantom Menace, and the master of the deceptive arts. And today, I wanted us to revisit the topic of purpose, not in general terms, but in terms of online creation, specifically for bachelors and those that would consider themselves or vasectomites or would be vasectomites in the future. I suppose what I'm really trying to answer is the question of why am I here, of all places? And I think I have some fairly good reasons. Apart from making money, right? I don't honestly believe that I will be generating a tremendous amount of income doing this and doing this particular type of content. In truth, I'm struggling to accept the terms content creator and even influencer to describe myself, because I don't really feel like I fit into that bubble of creativity, even though I do, right? Even though I'm aware that many of my practices are directly aligned, if not exactly the same as many other content creators would be. So I suppose I have to come to accept within myself that to some extent I am creating content, thereby becoming a content creator. And to another extent, I am trying to influence culture and social norms in a particular way. Fortunately for our endeavors, the law is on our side. So what we're doing really is not engaging more in legal ramifications. So we're not really trying to change the law, but just trying to change the culture. For a lot of content creators, I think the idea of changing laws, particularly divorce laws and paternity laws when it comes to things like DNA testing, those things really appeal to a lot of men and a lot of knee benders, but those aren't really issues for vasectomites. Like, unless you're getting married as a vasectomite, then you don't really need to worry about the legal ramifications of marriage and divorce and those types of situations. Simultaneously, the issue of paternity as a vasectomite is null and void. It's completely irrelevant. So for us, the vasectomites, the law is completely on our side. We don't need DNA tests, particularly if you've frozen your sperm, right? If you've frozen your sperm and you decide to unthaw it and use it in order to, to have a baby, and I don't know why you would do that after getting a vasectomy, but to each his own. If you did this, you would have 100% certainty that the child is yours, because they would, you'd only be conceiving through IVF. And before they begin the process, the first thing they would do is check if the counterpart is already inseminated or pregnant. So the issue of paternity is really null and void for vasectomites, right? It's nothing, right? So, so for us, the issue really becomes a cultural one, right? It's really we're not. I'm not expecting to gain a lot of sympathy as a vasectomite, and I'm also not expecting to to get a lot of men on our sides. Most knee benders are really not looking to be vasectomites, right? They what they really want to do is to have children and pass on their genes. So I try not to speak on behalf of the knee benders and counterparts, particularly because I believe that, we've heard enough of them. Honestly, I think we've heard enough from knee benders and counterparts preaching their morality and family values and all that. And not everybody stands for that. And I understand why family values are commercially viable, right? From a business entity, the only way, or one of the best ways really to get more customers is to birth them. The more people that are having kids, the more customers you'll have for your business and your corporation in the future. This is why the declining birth rate is a problem for commercial entities, because it means that in the future you'll have less customers for your products, and the economy cannot grow from that. So honestly, I really feel like we've heard enough from the knee benders, but I also know that they will not stop preaching their message of destruction, right? They really think that they're helping and they're doing something enormously powerful and good, when in fact all they're doing is feeding corporate greed. The same corporate greed that they complain is really driving them into poverty. They are actually fueling it by having more kids who are going to need better and better technology as the years go, right? So, but more than that, I think that they already have enough people representing their views and their opinions. There's really so many people that represent the views of the knee benders and the counterparts. Their point of view is very well known and very well exposed, and very well represented, I might say, despite the knee benders and counterparts not being very well organized. They do work in unison to achieve their desired outcomes. So I find them on one hand, like I've said, in their professional lives, they're absolutely expert, diligent people, very capable in every regard. But in their private lives are a disorganized mess, right? And this is really what we're talking about. And if you think that your private life is not going to affect your business life, you're completely wrong, right? Those two things work together, right? You don't, and actually they work on the same energy. So, if you have energy at work, your chances are you're going to be drained at home. But if you have energy at home, chances are you're going to be drained at work, right? But despite their being disorganized in their private lives, they are united in their desires and outcome. But they are very conflicted in the way that they will achieve those outcomes, right? So in almost every other meaningful way, they are conflicted. And I mean, in terms of when those outcomes will be achieved. So for instance, you might find a situation where a bender who is older wants to date a younger counterpart so he can have children, but you may find that the counterpart may want to wait until they are older in order to have children. So and what they try to do is to meet somewhere in a compromised middle, which means they're going to wait until the very last minute to get it done, which is a problem in itself because now you're having children in your 30s and your 40s, which means you're probably going to be raising them well into your 50s and your 60s. Just imagine you're in your 50s and 60s raising kids. That's what happens when you delay the process. But when you do it early, it means you're a parent for much longer, right? So they disagree on how, when, where, and by who those outcomes will be achieved. What they're constantly fighting for is for superiority in the home, right? The counterpart wants to be the final voice in everything, right? Even if they're completely wrong about everything, but the knee bender expects to be the head of the household, and those two things are always going to conflict, right? So the counterpart wants to play one role while the knee bender wants to play another role. Before I proceed, by the way, that's not me that you're seeing on the screen. This is I suppose what is the standard image of a an up and coming content creator, right? Gen Z, I believe they call themselves. So this young lady would probably be Gen Z and definitely not sound like me, right? So yeah, that's definitely not me, but it is a picture that I think is going to capture the essence of what we're talking about. In fact, what you see here is a person who is not just demonstrating what they think is a useful skill and talent, they're also demonstrating their interests and their priorities. Why would they need to to get makeup in a meaningful way to become attractive for you knee benders, by the way? So to continue where I left my thought before I started talking about this picture, is the conflict between the knee benders and the counterpart is not just, I want to be the head of the household while I want to be the final voice. They conflict in other things too. Take for instance, if the knee bender wants to buy a big house first, right? But the counterpart wants to go on a 2 week cruise first, right? But what in essence it is that they both want to go on a cruise and they both want to live in a big house. So they want to have it all, right? And they agree on this, but what they disagree on is how and when to achieve that. So, the bender wants to buy the house first and then go on a cruise later. The counterpart wants to go on the cruise now and, buy a house for later, right? Because the priorities are completely different. The priorities are completely different. The counterpart wants to wear a bikini when she's still young, not when she's old, right? And the knee bender wants to get that house while he's still young and not have to toil when he's old, right? So it's a conflict of interest, right? What they do share most in common is that they both fear being alone, right? They fear not they fear not being with someone, right? Or with someone who doesn't want the same outcomes, but they also fear being by themselves. They don't have the desire to remain by themselves. So if they do follow the bachelor life, it's always for a short term. It's always in terms of, I'm going to follow the bachelor life for a short amount of time. I'm going to get my money up. I'm going to get my education up. I'm going to hit the gym. And then, I'm going to get my mental health, my spirituality up. And as soon as I've got my system right, I'm going to get a counterpart to join me. And the counterpart is going to ask you, oh, what is all this? What is this system like? And as soon as you explain the system to her, she's going to want to change that. Because she's going to think that by in fact changing things, she's making things better, which is something that you really need to be careful with these counterparts. They think that change is the same thing as improvement, right? When what the real improvement should be is in your bank account. So you can do the same thing every day, and most business people do this, by the way. They will do the same business year after year after year, and the only difference that, quite frankly, you'll see is the business will get bigger, right? It'll perform the same tasks just on a much larger scale, which is why, by the way, it's so easy for business people to manage large businesses. They manage them the exact same way that you do a small business, right? So, you know, either they will do that. If you are consistent in your business practices, you will improve, and so will the amount on your bank account, right? So the money keeps growing, and that's really what you want. Where the counterpart will come in is that she will see that you have a system that works, right? And she'll want to change that system, thinking in her, I promise you, she will believe in her mind that she's making things better when she's slowing things down and making them more expensive, right? In her mind, she'll think, well, if we add more chairs, it'll, make people more comfortable. When in truth, now you have all your staff sitting around doing nothing, right? But they'll probably be happy, right? These are the same people who wanted to add bean bags in the office. They honestly thought that adding bean bags and sleep rooms in the office would make things more productive, right? This is how companies go under, right? And this is what the counterpart does, right? This is really what the counterpart does. And so we bachelors and vasectomites have a completely different philosophy and ideology. We stand by the principles of self before society, right? When what they want is something completely different, right? Inherently, the benders and the counterparts, they or instinctively rather, they believe in our philosophy, right? And they enact our philosophy that the self does come before society, right? This is actually not just something that we believe in as bachelors, it is philosophically sound, right? Capitalism demonstrates that. So they will enact our philosophy. And how do you know this, right? You look at things like the divorce rates, right? An indication that somebody has had enough of marriage and they want to put themselves first, right? Self before society. You look at this in the rate of single parent homes, where somebody believes that they can parent better by themselves than, just making all the executive decisions than they would with somebody who wants to counter or be a counterpart to all of their decisions, right? Look at the number of breakups. Look at the number of broken homes, right? Look at the amount of individual debt that is, just raising the economy, right? That individual debt, that commercial debt, all the shopping, there's no shopping for the greater community. Nobody says, well, let me buy, diamond earrings to improve the economy so that, the I don't know, national income will go up. Nobody thinks that way. You know, they enact these values, but they do it in just the most careless and reckless way, right? They enact our values with carelessness and recklessness and end up breaking laws and all kinds of things, right? But what they do is then they propagate and they encourage a completely different philosophy, right? On the one hand, they show very clearly that they are very selfish beings, but on the other hand, they advocate for equality, for equity, for unity, right? For everybody being the same, right? But they only do this when it serves their purpose, right? So this is where the hypocrisy really comes in, right? They want to share equity with the rich. So they don't want to share their equity with poor people. So they don't say, well, wait a minute, I've got a two-bedroom house. Why don't I bring in another family, not just an individual, bring in another homeless family, wife, kids, husband, dog, cat, furniture, and they can live in that half of the house. We can live in this half of the house. They can have the one bedroom. We can share the other bedroom, and they can have their own bathroom. We can have our own bathroom. Nobody ever says that. It's always a matter of, wait a minute, you have more than I do. We need to have equity. That's hypocrisy. That is absolute hypocrisy. You only want equity when somebody has more than you, but you don't want no equity when somebody has less than you, right? They also want equality with those that are more powerful than them and have achieved more than them. So if somebody wins, if somebody's faster than you, stronger than you, works out harder than you, right? You don't want that person to get the medal by themselves. You want everybody to get a medal, and that medal has to be the same, right? Regardless of the outcome, regardless of the obvious outcome, that people are not equal, right? You can achieve great heights. You can also lose badly and end up in devastating lows. This is known, and people are not equal. We're not equal in height, we're not equal in size, we're not equal in capacity, we're not equal in talent, we are not equal in any capacity whatsoever. But yet, what you'll see from the knee benders and the counterparts is that they will demand equality from people that are only more powerful than them and not from people that are weaker than them. And this is ironic, right? This is not just ironic, it's hypocritical. And it's a lie. Equality is a lie. Equity is a lie, right? And 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 you must remember they also only want to unite with people that are like them. And they only want to unite with those people against people that are different. You never hear of a knee bender, embracing a different and conflicting philosophy, a philosophy that, quite frankly, goes against their own, right? Even if there are positive practices from the opposite philosophy. So, for instance, we saw that knee benders, married knee benders in particular, they can live longer than bachelors because of the type of lifestyle, the stability, right? And the health benefits, the long-term health benefits of living a stable life compared to how many bachelors who are, quite frankly, under the age of 25, but many young bachelors do not have the privilege of living, not yet at least, right? That stability will come later on. But they don't want to unite with bachelors. There's no way that knee benders will have a genuine bachelor among them, right? It's only a matter of time before they try to make you bend the knee. They would never encourage our philosophy, despite the fact that we see benefits in it, right? So this has brought us to a philosophical impasse where they are providing evidence of why their philosophy has worked and why our philosophy has failed. And yes, that evidence exists, it is available, and everyone can see it, right? You can read it, you can listen to it, you can watch it, and you can assess it for yourself, right? Just look at the divorce rates and tell me what you see, right? Look at the rising number of broken homes and single parent homes and tell me if their philosophy of unity has actually worked, or has unity backfired on them. I think it backfires on them often, right? But self before solitude applies under almost every circumstance known to mankind. Simultaneously, bachelors and vasectomites, we've also provided compelling details as to why our philosophy and and the way we practice that philosophy is better, more sound, and can be more stable, right? And that information is also available for everyone to see. So what we have is we have two conflicting types of information where they say family values, community, society. Let's build a society, and we are saying self before society. And sadly, they are winning the information war, and they are winning it on merit. They are winning it because they are right. And I'm going to say that again, right? The knee benders, you see, I'm not like these knee benders. I can admit when the situation is not on my side, right? And I'm telling you that when it comes to the information war, they are winning this war, not just because there's more of them to spread this information, but because they are right. And I'll tell you why they are right, right? And they are right because of the issue of paternity and child raising. This is really what it comes down to. It comes to you are the father, and you have to raise this child. And for that reason, they are going to have you be part of the society, and they will indoctrinate you with those values because they know eventually you're going to get someone pregnant. I know this too. This is why I'm not out here disagreeing with their values, even though they'll disagree with mine. And they would be right to disagree with mine, almost. They'd be almost right. But you have to understand that child raising is challenging, it's exhausting, and it's expensive. And the counterpart cannot handle all those things together. She cannot handle something that's challenging, she cannot handle something that's exhausting, and she definitely cannot handle the expenses. Right? So for this reason, if you get her pregnant, you are right to be I would say, as far as to be induced, coerced, right? To act accordingly and to raise your child. And if you don't want to take, paternal present daily responsibility, if you cannot do that for some reason, you should be slapped with that child support, right? And I hope it's stiff. I hope they hit you with that child support that your head flips and it goes up every single year because you should have got a vasectomy. You should have got a vasectomy, right? For this reason, this is why they said in some theology, they'll say, if you bed them, you gotta wed them. If you bed them, you gotta wed them because they know the chances of insemination are high, right? Now, then there's the issue of these marriages really don't work. These marriages really don't work. People are losing their temper, getting belligerent, sometimes getting violent, excessively violent. So you have to separate the perpetrator from the victim. It makes logical sense, right? So child support is waiting for you, right? Child support is absolutely waiting for you, and they would be right to put you in that child support. So while bachelors are still taking the risk of insemination and pregnancy, they will be cadence and validity for the counterpart's perspective, and sadly, the knee benders too. So as long as you are still getting women pregnant, their point of view is valid. Their point of view are always going to be valid as long as the risk of insemination is there. They can demand a billionaire simply because they know that you are not going to afford to support a woman and child. So they're going to need somebody who's serious about their money, right? This is why the counterpart always wants the richest, most successful man, because they know they are going to get pregnant. They can either get pregnant by somebody that's very, very successful, or they can get pregnant by you. And you are not the best option for this particular issue. Dating is one thing, raising a child, not for you, right? Not for you. So as long as you're still taking that risk, their points are valid. And it's only by getting a vasectomy and freezing your sperm. Again, this is the core message of this platform. Getting your vasectomy and freezing your sperm and making this act a normal part of the bachelor life, a normal part of our conversation, a normal part of the transition. For when you say, I embrace the bachelor life, I want to be a bachelor for life, I don't want to have any more children, I don't want to have children at all, I don't want to take this risk, whatever your situation is. When you decide to live a life in the solitude always demands a sacrifice. In order to be a bachelor, you must lose that which you love. An everlasting exchange. That child and that wife, they gotta go in order for you to get a life. And you might think that this is suffering, and I tell you, no, it is salvation. For you, for the counterpart, and for anybody that might be involved in your tremendous, tremendous mistakes. Because if you get that woman pregnant, you're going to ruin everything for everyone. So this has to be the message, right? And until a vasectomy is part of the normal conversation and is considered the natural transition from bachelor to vasectomite, right? Until that is part of the norm, we have to push this message, right? We have to legitimize our perspective and say in a direct way that we want to affect the conversation, right? We want to have our opinion in the messaging war that is going on, right? Because they will bury the message of a vasectomy and becoming the opportunity of becoming a vasectomy. They will bury that under quite frankly a legitimate blanket of reasons, and at the top of that blanket is the fact that you're going to get somebody pregnant, and only by having this conversation often enough, regularly enough, legitimately, right, and legally can we shape the culture and direct, in fact, the future of humanity. And this is really what it boils down to, right? Not only that, not only that, we also have the issue of imposters, right? So before the vasectomy, there was legitimacy in the accusations that many knee benders, disguised as bachelors, would be inseminating and impregnating several women and not taking accountability and responsibility for those women and children. And many of them were discovered to just simply be unable to. Right? They didn't have the jobs, they didn't have the skill set, they didn't have the income, they just couldn't support a family, right? But because they were unmarried, right, people associated them with us. And we had no real way of distinguishing ourselves from them in a responsible, sensible, demonstrable, and legal way. And now we do. The vasectomy, if you follow the way of the bachelor, you freeze your sperm and you get that vasectomy, you can clearly distinguish yourself from the knee benders. Right? You can clearly say under the right circumstances, only when it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you keep it a secret. But should the child come, should the counterpart say, I'm pregnant, you've inseminated me, you can then say, no, no, no. I had a vasectomy. The four magic words, I got a vasectomy. Right? And you can tell her, no, 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 this is now the responsibility of the bender because it is the fault of the bender. And this is where we distinguish ourselves. We have taken responsibility and they have acted recklessly. This is why the message of the vasectomy should, I believe, be popularized. Right? It should be motivated and advocated for because it saves lives. Right? Because it helps to draw out the imposters among us. It demonstrates who is truly of the bachelor life and who's just pretending. And there are so many pretenders. They hear our message and they love everything about it. They love the freedom. They love the liberty. They love the self-determination, the autonomy. Most of all, they love the fact that they'll be saving a lot of money and getting rich very quickly. They love everything about it except making that true sacrifice and commitment so you can live a life that is truly of solitude. Because until you have that vasectomy, you cannot be guaranteed a life of solitude. You cannot call yourself a bachelor. Not really. Not really. I mean, you're a bachelor until you get somebody pregnant. That's not a commitment, right? We have the message of salvation. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, follow the way of the bachelor. This is the message, right? We have a genuine path for all bachelors to follow. And yes, it's a sacrifice. It is a sacrifice, right? To freeze your sperm to get a vasectomy, but it's a small price to pay for your salvation. Comparative to things like just the birth of a child, the clothes, the food, the education, just the education per year, childcare is something in the region of $2,000 a month, and you're gonna need that for years. That's almost $25,000 a year. A vasectomy is only 1,500. What are we talking about? There's no comparison. There's no comparison. This is a small price to pay for your salvation, truly. And that is why I'm here. To act as the voice of the vasectomite in a responsible and sensible way. Not in a way that will really open men up to litigation and all kinds of problems, which we've seen from so many philosophers who lost their temper on their platform and became belligerent and rude and thereby delegitimized themselves. This is why I'm always speaking in euphemisms and innuendo, because I don't want to be delegitimized because I called a counterpart out of their name. And it's really that simple, right? You only need one moment like that for people to say, oh, well, you are associated with this tribe. And then there's really no way of separating yourself, or at least there wasn't before. But this time we can say, look, I know I lost my temper, but I'm really not of that mind. I'm not of the mind of saying we need DNA tests. Because the DNA tests that we've had have indicated that 70% of you are the fathers, which is quite frankly, all of you are the fathers. Right? That's not a winning number. You don't go around and say, well, we lost 70% of our soldiers, we're winning. No, no, that's not a winning number. That's a defeat, right? So we have a way of distinguishing ourselves and saying, look, even though we spoke poorly, even though we may have misspoke and stepped out of line, but we are vasectomites, right? And this issue of paternity is not our issue. So if you were dishonest, unfaithful, unscrupulous, and did something reckless, and now you're going to face the consequences of that, there's no reason for me to be rude about it, especially since I knew coming into it that this was all going to fall on you, right? So your punishment is not going to be an insult from me. I will sentence you to 20 years of child raising. And you, Mr. Kneebender, who likes to sneak around, who likes to act like you're the phantom menace in my life, I sentence you to 18 years of child support. And it will increase every year, right? And you can expect increases every year. This is the consequence that you face. There's no reason for me to be rude. I'm here to act as a guide to all the bachelors and say there is a solid foundation for you to plant your feet. For too long, our philosophy has been up in the air, intermingled with all kinds of crazy things that make no sense, that make absolutely no sense. And we've been intermingled with all kinds of rude, immature, childish, petulant men who are careless with their bodies, careless with their money, careless with their minds, and careless with their values, and they associate us with them. And we can now very clearly distinguish ourselves. We can say, listen, I understand the difficulties that you are having on this socio-economic market, right? This so-called dating economy, right? The romance war. But I am not your enemy. I am not the one that will put you barefoot, inseminated, and in the kitchen. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. This is not the way of the bachelor. We don't seek to enslave ourselves, and we don't seek to enslave anyone else. Because to enslave another is to enslave ourselves. The punishment I give to you has to be yours and yours alone. That's why you get 18 years child support, and then both of you combined will have 20 years of child raising. This is a punishment for you. I cannot punish you and punish myself at the same time. I cannot then, be there 24 hours a day to watch you, carry out your punishment. That's punishing myself. I got a bachelor life to live. I really do. I don't have time to sit here, watch you, make sure that you're raising children. Absolutely not. And for those men who want this legitimate option, this legal option, it's yours. And I'm here to let you know that every single opportunity I get to let you know that you can get a vasectomy and still have the option of having children as many as you want. Up to 1 billion, maybe even more. I stopped at 1 billion. I thought it was getting quite ridiculous after that. Right? I'm here to act as a guide to you and to all who seek the truth of the bachelor life. When we say self before society, it is not just a mantra, it is a call to action. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, and proceed with absolute confidence and dignity in yourself. You can hold yourself to a higher standard because you know you will never be dragged down into these romance wars, into that child support court. Imagine being called out of work, being pulled in there to get told that you didn't buy any diapers, that you didn't fold no towels, when you've been folding all the towels, man. Not for us. This is not the way of the bachelor. It is incumbent on us to not only set the standard, but to uphold the virtues of the bachelor life in a way that doesn't overtly harm others, especially the women and the children, which is something that knee benders claim to care about, but they don't. Women and children. You guys are making kids. Man, I don't care if you are divorced. I don't care if you were on child support. You are making kids and you're not taking care of those kids. You're not taking care of those kids. You made a woman pregnant. You're not taking care of that woman. That's not right. That's not right. I mean, I'm all against these family values, all that, and I stand against it in a legitimate way. I bring information to demonstrate my point of view and statistics as they do, but they could throw my statistics right out. But the issue that you're gonna get a woman pregnant and she goes through all of that and you don't play your part in full after the kid is there, man, that's just a bad situation. That's just the ultimate indication of failure. And I understand where they're coming from, and I can agree with them because I got a vasectomy, right? So I can look at this thing and say, well, if I was a child, how would I feel? If I was the woman, how would I feel? If I was this knee bender, how would I feel? Of course, I'm neither one of these, so I don't feel nothing. But if your actions are hurting other people, this is not the bachelor life. We say self before society, but we don't need to hurt you to destroy you. You're already destroying yourself. Hurting you is just breaking the law and destroying myself. I don't. You're already breaking the law. And our message doesn't support that. Our message doesn't support that. Our message has evolved as we have. We have become vasectomites. This is our evolution. And while we are not as popular as benderism, right, which is the false doctrine of truth, or the or the doctrine of false truth, right, preaching family values, but look at the single parent home. The look at the rate of single parent homes. Look at the rates of divorces, breakups, all the time. The most popular thing to have now is a dating app. And the only reason for that is because you're going to be single in no time. So you might as well get a dating app, right? So benderism is very popular, but because of this vasectomy, because of this contribution to the bachelor life, these moves to freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy, we are just as valid and just as legitimate, right? While our philosophy might still be on the fringes and on the edges of society, we are still quite taboo, you know. And to be fair, we may very well stay there, right? The philosophy of the bachelor life may very well stay in the fringes, especially if you don't have no vasectomy, right? Especially if you're going around making children and not being able to take care of them. It's one thing to refuse; it's another to just not have the capacity, right? And you need to freeze your sperm and get that vasectomy until you are certain that you have the capacity. But we may very well remain in the fringes of society. That thing that people don't talk about. They know what it is, but they don't discuss it. They don't like in marriage. You don't bring up the word divorce, right? And so we may very well be on the fringes and remain there. But what they cannot do is delegitimize us offhand, right? It's really a matter of now controlling the message. The skill is there, the process is there, the outcome is sound, it is legal, it is healthy, it is valid, and it is a legitimate option. That they cannot take away. You can freeze your sperm. It's called sperm cryopreservation. It's a new word. I'm updating my synapses as I go. Right, it's a new word, right? And they use cryoprotection to store and keep your seed healthy, and they can do it for up to 55 years. So it's a legitimate option, and I'm here to let you know that you have this option, right? In a way that is plausible, reasonable, and dare I hope acceptable. I don't think so, though. I don't think it's ever gonna be that acceptable, right? But if it wasn't legitimate, and if it wasn't sound, and if it wasn't effective, I would not forego all other philosophies to uphold this as the standard. I would not be here if this was not the move, right? There are many dangers and pitfalls in the romance wars, and the winning move is really not just to play the game. It's just stay away, right? But if you are going to play, you want to play with protection. You want to know that you've put yourself at least beyond the possibility of defeat. And this, at the very least, guarantees you a draw, right? You're not going to lose. You're not going to lose, right? So think of your own philosophy as a bachelor and would-be vasectomite, right? And look at today's world with open eyes and ask yourself, is your philosophy going to stand up against this reality? And what practices exactly, what real tangible things, what steps can you take to ensure your safety based on that philosophy? And while you ponder that, we're going to talk about today's article. We're going to look at today's article, which is entitled Why I Became a Content Creator, and think of how you can legitimize and immortalize your own philosophy, right? And improvement of yourself, right? And to raise yourself in a deliberate way above society. And I believe that a vasectomy will do that. I believe that the vasectomy is the living embodiment of self before society. Why become a content creator is the title of today's article. It was written on the 26th of January 2024. The author is, forgive my pronunciation, Atit Mananda. And his website is medium.com. I actually copied this straight from the link, so I don't think I missed anything. He says, I wanted to become a content creator. I always enjoyed consuming content for ideas and insights. The fact that I was able to learn from people I admired amazed me. This is something I enjoy too about content, and I'm hoping that this content is insightful in some way, right? To be able to learn how they think is a superpower, maybe. It fascinates me that the creators not only share valuable content, but they are able to grow their connections and create businesses out of it. Don't know so much about that. If you're reading this, I bet you're someone who wants to be a content creator. I wouldn't do this for the money. Yes, there are some people who can monetize, who can do business, but I have a job, right? That I think I'm fairly good at, that remunerates me very well. So I'm really, I'd be grateful to make money from this. It would be quite meaningful, and I would love nothing more than to pass around meaningful merchandise and that type of thing. But I would much rather you take that money and get a vasectomy than spend it on me. So, get a vasectomy, and if it works, right, and if it changes your life in the way that I say it will, or at least I indicate that it will, and you throw me $1, I'll catch it, right? But test it first, make sure it works before you start throwing money around. Let's continue. What does creators do? I think he means what do creators do? They create, they make things. Your knowledge, your ideas die if you don't find a way of expression. Knowledge is not enough. Direct experience is what matters. The real learning happens when you test your knowledge firsthand. I would not underestimate knowledge, right? But he is correct. He is correct. The the value in knowledge, the value in knowing something is really appreciated or grows when other people value that knowledge too. So you do want to share your knowledge. Generally, you want to do it for money, right? You want to share your skills, your particular talents for remuneration, right? But for my particular purposes, this knowledge, freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, and the bachelor life, yes, they can be useful, but since I'm not the one performing the vasectomy, I don't think I deserve to be remunerated directly. That's why I say I really consider myself more of a guide, right? Not really a teacher because I'm not teaching you anything about vasectomies. Maybe in when it comes to the deceptive arts, sure, there is some instruction required, but really, like he says here, experience is what matters. Experience is the best teacher. What you want to do is you want to read that book, you want to listen to the audio book, and you want to see if that knowledge and wisdom applies to you also. You don't have to wait for me to teach you the ways of the Grandmaster. Nobody taught me. I learned them over decades of repetition and understanding, right? But you can achieve, but this was again at a time before audiobooks. So you can achieve the same type of thing in no time at all, right? And then we can have a meaningful discussion about those deceptive arts together. But yes, experience will matter. Audiobooks are very helpful to me in this regard because I do feel like, to a certain extent, that I'm hearing the Grandmaster speak his own words, right? Again and again, as I speak my own words again and again, right? It says, and also, yes, there's a difference between theorizing about making content and making content. Those are two very different skill sets, right? So doing it is very different from thinking about it. You think about it all day, but you only execute for a short amount of time. The real learning happens when you test your knowledge firsthand. Indeed, it does. The purpose for an instructor of the deceptive arts in instructing them, whether you are master or grandmaster or not, and you are instructing these to a practitioner, I don't really like the word student. That's not what we're doing here. You're not learning, you're practicing, right? You're a practitioner, and you will decide when you've gone from practitioner to master. There's nothing in between that, right? You practice it until you master it, right? So there's no learning, there's no graduation, you're not a student. You're not a student, and I'm not a teacher. I simply instruct the deceptive arts, and it's up to you to practice them until you master them. And that's how you get the deceptive arts right. Right? You don't get a grade. I'm not going to give you no grade. I'm not going to give you a test, an assignment. Go out into the world and deceive five people. You'll get yourself arrested, right? But you got to practice those skills in a meaningful way to you until you master them. And only then you will know I've mastered them. No one is going to tell you you've mastered these, right? So you do need to test your knowledge firsthand. This is a very good article so far. It says, why does content creation matter? The internet has opened up newer opportunities. This is true. Most people have not realized this yet. You're able to do work that you enjoy for a living. I was hesitant to take initiative in the creator economy. In hindsight, I didn't want to face. Let me read that sentence again. He says, in hindsight, I didn't want to face criticism and to face criticisms and failures. Yes, so that's really something that a lot of people are worried about, especially because I think you come into it with the idea that this is going to be your full time job and you're going to make a lot of money. It does tend to feel, it can feel like a full time job if you're making content like I am every day, just incessantly. But in truth, I'm living the bachelor life. I'd either be doing this or making memes, or walking around shooting videos or whatever. I'd just be wasting time. I really wouldn't be doing anything constructive, right? So other than work and exercise, I wanted to add something a little bit more productive to it, and I really do believe that I have a philosophy worth sharing. So for that reason, you know, I don't fear criticism as much, and I don't fear failure as much. I can act with absolute confidence. Not to mention I'm hiding my face, right? So it's not really a matter of, oh, he doesn't show his face, he's doing faceless content. No, I'm hiding my face. I'm keeping my face off the internet. You're not going to see my face nowhere on the internet, right? So yeah, that, anonymity has been my ally my entire life. So I'm very confident being anonymous. But also, I don't think I'm being disrespectful to anyone. So if should I be discovered, I would happily stand behind my vasectomy and my message of self-determination, right? But I also don't want to distract from the message. So let's continue. So what I did was I consumed more content. I thought consuming more would help me create winning content. This is not true. This is like thinking that just because you like eating pizza, you should run a pizza restaurant. Not the same thing. Most of us get trapped in content consumption. I like consuming content. I consume content a lot because it's much easier to consume information than put in the actual work. This is true, but consuming information, depending on the type of information, can be quite tiring. I can imagine that people who will watch these videos won't be inclined to watch them daily because eventually, after quite a long diatribe and philosophy of bachelor, then I go into a tremendous reading and analysis. So I can imagine that after consuming this content, you might feel somewhat tired. But most content isn't very difficult to consume. It doesn't really take a lot of brain power. It's actually quite easy thing to do. And this is not to imply that it's not helpful, right? Just because something is easy to consume doesn't mean it's not helpful. I consume a lot of content because I find it quite insightful and entertaining, right? It's funny, people want their bills paid. Hilarious. Let's continue. He says here, this is a common thing that stops your progress, and right now you might be stuck in the same situation. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I think, the beauty about content is that it's always there. So you can watch something, go ahead and work, go out and then watch it again. You can listen to your podcast on your phone while you're driving or whatever. Right? There's really no reason for it to stop your life. It's not like adult intimacy content where you gotta sneak and hide it. I mean, you can watch your podcast everywhere you go, depending on who you're watching. I don't think they'll let you listen to shows about vasectomies all the time, right? Wherever you are. But other than that, you can just put your earphones on and enjoy your privacy. You've to accept criticism and failures as part of the game. I think it means you have to accept failures and criticism as part of the game. Sure, I can accept that. Failure and criticism is a reality in almost every aspect of life. Every new endeavor brings its own set of risks and rewards. From the career perspective, most people consider content creation as an unpredictable path. It is an unpredictable path. The only thing that's going to be constant about content creation is you. Are you going to put out a video constantly or from time to time? Or are you going to live stream at the same time every day? Or what are you going to do? You're the one that's driving this, right? That's why you got to have a philosophy you believe in, man. If you're coming here just to entertain people, the desire to entertain people will go away. And also that energy. You've seen these people, man, with the glasses and their shirts off on the internet. Every video is exhausting. You gotta be 110%. Your muscles have to glisten in every single video. How much oil do you use to keep your body so shiny? Every single video. I mean, the heat in your house must be going on 24 hours a day, especially if you're in Europe or something like that, because Europe is cold. So for you to be walking around topless in Europe, that's just unreasonable, right? But there you are, topless in every video. That must be exhausting, man. Screaming in every video. 10 years of this. 10 years of this, you're screaming at people. No, man, calm down. Calm down. Just be informative. This is why I don't crack jokes. This is why I don't crack jokes. Because eventually you run out of jokes. But if you're informative, you can be consistent and informative and helpful every single day, right? But otherwise, you have to choose how predictable and how reliable you are, right? But for most careers are unpredictable indeed because you're unpredictable. It should be less about the career and more about the skills. I disagree. I think you should practice a viable skill that is sustainable. Do something that you can do for a very long time. As you age, your skills, your wisdom, your processes will improve. But if you're really coming out here to crack jokes, how many times can we hear the same joke? You know what I mean? How many times can we see the same skit, you and your wife doing skits? Ugh, come on, man. You don't even have a different topic every day. It's just me and my wife doing skits, me and my wife doing skits. How's that going to improve anybody's life? This is why I recommend taking the approach of being informative, right? You can be casual, you can be yourself, but if you are being informative in a particular way, current affairs is one thing. Because if you're doing current affairs, then everybody's going to be talking about the same thing. But if you've decided, you know what, I want to have an informative platform, and my big concept is freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. And we can build numerous things around you being informative in that way. But if you're really trying to be funny, you're gonna find out that you're not. And that's gonna break you, man. Finding out that you're not funny, that's not an easy thing for comedians to accept, right? So skills is one thing, but you're here to share information, right? The internet is a great marketing tool, but also a great tool for sharing information, right? So if you're not spreading information or selling something, then you're selling yourself, which I hope it works for you. I hope people don't get tired of you, right? I hope people don't wake up one day and say, oh, not this guy again, right? With me, I'm sure people are already getting tired of me, but I'm going to bring a different topic every time, and a different reading, and a different article, and a different perspective every single time. So, and the same information get a vasectomy, which keeps it interesting for me. But if it's not interesting for me, then I know it won't be interesting for anybody else, right? If you're doing something that's funny, you're not sure it's funny, it's probably not funny, right? Where did we end? He says, the best thing about content creation is that you're able to use those skills in other areas of your life. Maybe I wanted to experience the creator economy firsthand. If you're someone like me who wants to be part of the creator economy, I would say go for it. Try it for yourself. Just don't quit your job, right? Don't quit your day job. Do it on the side. Do it as a hobby. Take it very seriously. I said before, I consider myself an employee of YouTube Corporation. So while I do intend to be a taboo, maybe a little bit I don't know, controversial, because controversy sells, right? Get a vasectomy. That's controversial enough, isn't it? I think so, right? So while I'm willing to push some boundaries, I also have to understand that I am an employee of a corporation, and I need to produce in order for that corporation and myself to be viable, right? So the idea that these skills are useful in other areas is yet to be determined, right? I think the topics that we discuss here openly and freely, we generally can't discuss them out in public, which is really one reason why I'm here, because I really cannot be recommending vasectomies to people that I meet face to face. But on here, I can recommend it to millions of men, hopefully, right? Eventually the right person will hear that message, and that would have to be enough. But I don't recommend you doing this in terms of saying, well, this is my new job now. It could take years for people to even recognize your channel, right? Just because you think your content is good and somebody else might think it's good, it doesn't mean that it's going to catch on to the general public. They might hear it and reject it, right? Then what do you do then? Atit believes that the world needs more creators. He says, we humans are wired to stay within our comfort zone to avoid risks and danger, and we feel safe to consume content rather than create something. I suppose so. I think he's expressing himself here. I really have no problem with public speaking, right? I don't have a problem with being prepared with material, giving some thoughts before, and then sharing that material in what I consider a meaningful, concise, and analytical way. But I can understand if you feel uncertain about making content, particularly depending on the type of content that you're making. I think that really, even if you were doing something as mundane as talking about beards, I think if you read things associated with life, health, lifestyle, social norms, and that kind of thing, history, you could find a lot of information just talking about beards, right? You could be quite informative just talking about beards, not just from a health science point of view, but from a socio-economic, maybe even political. The challenges of having a beard at work in a corporate environment and that type of thing, right? There's so much you can read into it, and then dating dynamics with beards, right? And read information about that really gives depth to your point of view, right? But just talking about your opinion can fall short. Really, your opinion can fall short. My opinion is quite frankly limited, and I could bring it down to two sentences in one phrase, right? 4 words: free sperm, get vasectomy. I can bring it down to that level, and then what do I say for for the remainder of the show? Right? You need content. If you're gonna do content, get material, right? Real confidence comes from being prepared. I'm only prepared because I'm only confident because I've prepared this material. Without it, I would be waffling on for hours with no point. And you know, I can waffle on. You know what I mean? On and on. He says this is the biggest problem. We get stuck in the learning phase for too long and never experience it for real. We stop believing that we could achieve more. We hesitate to explore new ideas and perspectives. We fear to embark on a new journey or unknown trajectory. He's a really good writer, right? He's really captivating in this little excerpt that we've done, right? But in truth, it all comes down to doing it. If you think that you have something to say, it's I don't recommend, even if you're saying the same thing that everybody else is saying, which I don't recommend doing. I think you need to find your own unique perspective on something, right? We're all talking about dating, we're all talking about human interactions, and here I am saying vasectomy, vasectomy, vasectomy. Why? Because if I'm taking a position that nobody else takes, number one, it puts me in a position where I think I'm unbeatable, which is what a vasectomy does. But also, it puts me in a situation where I am the leader, right? I am the head. I am the one. I am the first one out the gate with this topic, and therefore I can be the authority. So if you come in 6 months after me and say, well, I've been doing this since 2026, I'll say, well, I've been doing it since early 2025, even though it's only 6 months different, right? I can take the leadership, I can be the authority, and I can put myself at the top first and establish my point of view and perspective as the one to beat. This is the one that other contraception and preachers of that type of philosophy will be up against, right? So by doing that, I've established myself. So try really not to talk about things that other people are talking about, so you can establish yourself as the authority, as the leader, as the voice of the vasectomites, right? He says this keeps us where we are. The consumer mindset keeps us where we are. The creator mindset gets us where we want to be. Action, right? Action is the only power that can change reality. If you really want to do well at this, you have to start doing it. Eventually, somebody will watch your videos. I will. I watch all kinds of stuff on the internet. I never get tired of it, right? I have two screens going, right? Both showing different type of content on the laptop, on the computer. You know, you can open YouTube on two screens, right? If you haven't done it, it's actually pretty awesome. Just open your computer, your laptop, split the screen on YouTube, and you can play YouTube. You can watch two videos simultaneously. So I consume a lot of content. But also I try to give a lot of information. I don't talk about what I watch, right? So I'm not all day watching videos on vasectomies, even though I should be, right? But because the videos are all kind of the same, and there isn't really anybody talking about the social aspects of being a vasectomite. So here I am, right? Creating, right? But if you do want to do it, you do have to do it. He's a very good writer. If you want to become a content creator and not just watch other creators, then you must put in the work. He's correct. You have to create more rather than just consume. Why content creation is important, he continues, right? One, it helps you bring clarity in areas of your interest, right? So you do end up talking about things that interest you in a way that interests you, right? So this article interested me, and that's why I'm reading it. But I knew if it wasn't interesting to me, it wouldn't be interesting to other people. So it does bring clarity to areas of your interest. It builds your skill set and helps you in other areas of life. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. In fact, making these videos has then given me an incentive to do more with other videos that I record. So I put out a video about me traveling, right? Yeah, it's been 90 days. I'm on vacation. I don't play about my vacations, right? I don't take no breaks for 90 days. So when I do go on vacation, I don't play, right? Because I know it's going to be months before I take a break again. And I'm going to need that break, right? But doing that, the skill sets that I need and use to create these videos, I found could be used in other areas of content creation. I can shoot live content, edit it, put it in the correct sequence that I'd like it to appear in. I can add music and all other kinds of things. Now, this might seem simple, and over time it does become so, but there is a learning curve. And then there are various applications that you can use this for, right? I mean, we record things all the time. So you can record all kinds of content. It's not just informative content. You can really do anything. You can just step outside, put your video, put your camera on, and just record the world and discuss your thoughts. He says, three, you're able to provide value to your community. You're able to build a community of like-minded people just by discussing your interests, right? So somebody that wants to talk about a vasectomy, he's more than welcome to discuss it, especially if you're looking to talking about it in terms of caring for your community. So, is it going to help the community? Yes, you're creating less single parent homes, right? So there is a value in it, right? It's not, I'm taking a very selfish point of view because I am a narcissist, and I'll admit that, right? I don't want people thinking that you're dealing with a fair individual when you're not. But also I can accept different points of view about this. Where I do not compromise is in getting a vasectomy. Get a vasectomy, freeze your sperm, or at least consider it, and then we can discuss. But if you're saying no to the vasectomy, then you are obviously of a different philosophy. And the only thing you and I are going to achieve is an argument. And in the end, I will be the gentleman and agree to disagree, right? But I already got the vasectomy, so agreeing with you, not gonna change anything for me, right? You're able to build your personal brand. I'm not really building a personal brand. I am building an identity, right? Well, I don't know if that's a personal brand, but really what I'm trying to get men to see is that they really have serious options when it comes to contraception. It's not a popular discussion to have anywhere else, but I'd rather build a brand for your urologist. I'd rather your urologist get the credit than me, right? But I'll take $1. I'll take two, It says number 5, you're able to build businesses around your audience. I think I'm building other people's businesses. I'm building the urology business, right? I'm building the business, the sperm cryo preservation business. Really not so much my own. Maybe I'll write a book. And I'll just call it Get a Vasectomy, right? Why confuse the audience, right? He says the next one, what do we, you build your, no, clarity in areas of your interest. When you sit down to write about something that interests you, you need to do some critical thinking before you want to justify your way of thinking to your readers. And to bring clarity in what you're trying to convey requires intense work. This process forces you to examine on things that lacks clarity. I think he means this process forces you to examine things that lack clarity. It helps you to demystify your confusion and heightens your understanding. What I will admit to do is I do have portions of my monologue scripted. so that I do speak with direction. Because I can sometimes get lost on a sidetrack, on a tangent, and then have to bring it back. I know that happens to myself. So I do write things down. But I'm not just writing things down for the sake of my own clarity. I'm writing it in a concise and meaningful way so that I can present it here to you. But also, I'm hoping that this will become a manuscript, that these ideas are immortalized and they are not lost, right? So one day, should I decide, I actually bought a book, to be honest with you. I'm not just scribbling on paper. I bought a book specifically so that I could write down the topics, write down my ideas, bring them together into the bachelor life, the vasectomy, and should this be completed, which I think it would be, I believe it would make for a very interesting read. So there is potential there. If you're writing down your ideas and scripting your videos, one, it makes the video easier to do, right? So you're confident because you know what you're gonna say, and it calms you down. But two, it also gives you another avenue for which you can make money, right? So if you're doing a video about beards or I don't know, mowing the lawn, you need to write your ideas down. You need to get a book and a pen and scribble them down. Not even on your phone. You need to write your ideas down, and then later you can bring your ideas together in some concise way. Even if you're at work, this is why I write everything down at work, right? I have pages and pages of all the ideas that I've written down at work. And should the opportunity come, I can put those together into some type of concise and meaningful book. And I think the information in those books is going to be very helpful. So he's very right about this, and I agree with him completely. You really need to write things down, especially so that you know what you're going to say, and then you can elaborate. Because I do a lot of elaboration. Um, he continues to say, this process forces you to examine the things that lack clarity. I think we just read that. It helps you to demystify your confusion and heightens your understanding. Excellent, excellent article. Build skill sets is the next point that Atit talks about. He says content creation requires various skill sets, and improving those skills does not only help you in content creation, but you're able to use those skills in other areas as well. For instance, creating newsletters improves things like writing, persuasion, storytelling, critical thinking, and more. So these skills will definitely help you grow your business as well. The skills get carried onto other areas in your life. This is very true. Being able to plan, choreograph, and execute, even at a small level, right? It's the same principle on a larger scale. So, plan, write things down, write down, if you can, write down literally what you want to say and then say it the way that you've written it down, right? And then elaborate on it should the moment come. But now you've improved your writing skills, you've improved your storytelling, you've improved your critical thinking. Eventually, you're going to improve your vocabulary. Here we do a lot of reading, so I'm hoping that people will improve their knowledge as well, right? Their knowledge and their wisdom. But the more of these articles I read, the more I learn. I cannot tell you how much I've learned just by analyzing these articles. So for me, it is beneficial because I'm really gathering a lot of information. And the more information I get, the more information I can disseminate and give out, right? So it's really a symbiotic relationship now. It's really become quite meaningful. Create value for yourself and others, I'm sure. The reason we create content is to provide value. I hope I'm creating some value to change someone's life for the better. If you're if you're able to bring positive change to someone, then you're able to gain attention and win his or her trust. It seems like a give and take approach, but in a good way. You offer so much value that people become your lifelong fans. I I think I'm going to offer value myself to a very small group of people, and I'm going to be removing a tremendous amount of value to a lot of counterparts and knee benders. So, for many of you, I think that point is valid, but for me, as the voice of the vasectomite, I don't see that happening. I don't see me gaining, I see myself gaining a lot of attention, but not lifelong fans. Oh no, 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 no. Lifelong criticism is what waits for me. People are going really, by having this vasectomy, we've just given them a clear target of something to attack. And they just haven't found a way to attack it, but they will. They will. And when they do, I'm the one that they're going to come after. And if they do, I'm okay with that. It's better than being ignored, I guess. It's much better than being ignored. The last point it says here is build personal brand. Your personal brand is about how you want people to see you. It is I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be seen. So this is more for you guys than for me. It is about the visibility and the values that you outwardly represent. Nope, I will not be representing anything outwardly. People learn about your values through your interactions and expressions. This is true. And content creation is a great way to express your values to audience. You must understand that the human eye is more trained towards reading of faces than any other detail. Right? We'll remember the faces of something, but we won't of somebody, but we won't remember what they were wearing. Right? Just think about that. We'll remember if they had a beard or a mustache, if they were wearing glasses, what color their hair was, what color their eyes were, how big their ears, their nose, right? Were their teeth clean? Were their eyes red? You'll remember all that, and they'll ask you, well, what color were his jeans? You'll have no idea, right? So, if you want to be seen, you will be. But for me, not so much. I find a way to disguise my voice. It can help you differentiate from your competition and also gravitate you towards your opportunity, towards opportunities you want, perhaps. For some, I think this might be true. For me, I'm not going anyway. I can see how I will just face tremendous criticism as soon as somebody puts a camera on me, right? But for other people, depending on the content that you're making, this might be true. He says, there's a lot of things that can go into personal branding. What are the key values you want to portray to your audience? What visuals, colors, fonts, logos, yeah, no visuals here, you use to represent your brand? No, no, I don't have any graphics. What type of content your audience can expect from you? Informative, detailed, analytical content. That's what you can expect from me. No jokes, and no pianos, no cats on pianos. And lastly, I'll be covering these topics in the future. So, he can already see how he can break each one of these topics down into a future video, right? So all these things are actually very valid if you want to create content. But I think for me, it's an important stance to take because I think I genuinely have a path for bachelors that will work in a life that quite frankly has given me everything, right? The bachelor life has been my true north, my compass, and it's helped me in every possible way. But I have struggled with it because of the fear of insemination, the fear of getting somebody pregnant, right? And having resolved this issue, having spent a lifetime trying to get to this solution, I've had my light bulb moment, right? And this is why I'm here with my philosophy making this content. For a lot of people, I think the last slide is this is our final page. This could be very meaningful for you, but not so much for me. Perhaps the opportunity will come. Maybe the book will finish, right? And the book will be out to be published. I'll publish anonymously under the name The Ancient One or The Bachelor Supreme. I'm sure I'll do that. Right? Lots of people have published anonymously. In fact, most actors don't even use their real names. So that's not going to be a problem. But, I again, it depends on what you're doing. The idea of social media as a business has really taken, you know, it's really gained in momentum, and how viable it is, we are still to see. Right? Various platforms might pay you for content depending on how many views and such you get, but the way I would do it is I would have a product, t-shirts, bags, whatever, and I would create content around selling that product. Right? That's really what I would do. I wouldn't make the content the product. Right? I would so my content is not the product. The product is the vasectomy, and the supplier is the urologist. I'm merely, like I said, a guide, right? To get you from your couch to your urologist, right? So they don't need to do any advertising. But if you were on social media without a product, I would recommend you start selling t-shirts as quickly as possible. And you wear those t-shirts and you advertise them in every video. Cause otherwise, what are you doing? Sell cups, man. There's a guy selling cups. I respect that. I respect that. You can sell cups and cutlery. Sell something. Don't just sell yourself. Send people somewhere to spend money. I'm sending you to the urologist and the fertility clinic. Where are you sending your people? What action does comes with your knowledge and your wisdom? He says, the thing I want to mention here is that there is a shift happening in the way we do business. Yes, this is true. Before, companies would first build a product and then find customers or buyers. It's what we call a product market fit model. Very interesting. But now we see the reverse. I beg your pardon. A market product fit model. So it's not product to market fit model, it's market to product. So that doesn't make any sense. Where you first grow an audience who have specific needs and then build business around that premise. This is where the content creation shines. I don't know so much about that. It depends on the product, I suppose. So if you're being funny every day, let's assume that you can make jokes every day for 10 years and those jokes land every single time. Maybe you can sell, I don't know, soft drink along with those jokes. Sure, I can see that if people like your jokes, they may buy the soft drinks in return. I think, but then your jokes are the content, right, and the product. Then you should be on stage. You should be on stage. You should be selling tickets to the show, right? That's if you already have if I was showing my face and I picked up enough people to fill up a room, right? I would absolutely fill up a room and prepare something that I could discuss live, because here I've prepared content for online consumption. But I would prepare something that could be consumed live, and I'd sell tickets. I'd sell tickets for people to come and see me. But also, you should be writing your book, right? Your content, your ideas, your skits. If you've got something funny, you should be writing that down. Make something out of it, and then try and sell that, right? You could sell a book full of jokes. Really, there's no reason you can't sell a book full of jokes, right? People would love reading your jokes for themselves, right? It says here, where you first grow an audience who have a specific needs. I think we've just read that, and then build businesses around that premise. This is where the content creation shines. I hope so. For instance, Jane is a content creator who likes gardening. She creates content that helps people grow organic food in their own home. By the way, growing food, vegetables can take 3, 4, maybe even 5 months to grow a vegetable. So it's not something that happens in 2 weeks. First, you gotta grow the plant, then the plant has to flower, and then the flower needs to turn to vegetables. The flowering turns to vegetables. You could be there for months. So yes, you could probably create a lot of content just growing a garden, right? Just months, and every day the plant changes. And there's something you gotta do every day. You gotta feed it, you gotta water it, you gotta move it out of danger, you gotta do all kinds of things, right? Her content attracts audiences who have similar interests. She realizes that her audiences have trouble finding the tools for garden. This creates an opportunity for Jane to solve the problem. She would sell her own line of products, and her likelihood of success is more. She could sell other people's products too and then charge people for delivery. Like, just say, look, I can get you this. You send me the money, I'll get it for you and send it to you, right? These are the products that are available to me. You can sell that, right? And then, I mean, the post office practically does that. You buy the product and you post it to somebody else and they charge you for shipping. You don't have to create your own line of things, especially if things are only available in some places. But then people can buy them online, right? It's the same thing. You just open an online shop, I suppose, right? Where was I? This creates an opportunity for Jane to solve the problem. We read that she could sell her own line of products, and her likelihood of success is more, not necessarily, because she already has an audience who are in desperate need for a solution. It could work, I suppose. You could also lose a lot of money. There's people who tried to sell sunglasses because it seemed like a good idea, and indeed it was. Selling sunglasses was a tremendously good idea until he lost a lot of money. Right now, when you do that, then it's not really happening. It's not really sound. So this was a very good article, and very useful information. But ultimately, every person is going to have to find their own reason and style of doing content. I have my own, right? And it is really to promote my philosophy of life, a philosophy that I've lived, to promote sensible strategies, in a legal way, right? And to promote getting that vasectomy. It is not just a philosophy; it's my contribution to the bachelor life, right? And I suggest you get a reason that will motivate you, and a system that will keep you productive, because otherwise all you're going to do is you're going to run out of steam. Because there are days myself where I think, oh, I don't know if I have the energy to do this, but because I have a system, I can just say, okay, well, I just need to do A, B, and C, and the system is complete, and I just follow that system, right? But also it's either that or I'd be making memes, and I don't know. I don't know. It's childish, right? It's really childish. It's a lot of fun, but it's like using a coloring book, right? It's a lot of fun, but you're not really doing anything, right? But everybody, I think, will have their own perspective, but I don't know if your perspective is going to be as serious as mine. This vasectomy thing is the most serious thing you're ever going to do, right? That means you cannot have children anymore. You cannot create life, right? And this is really the right that most human beings, right? Most human beings have and enjoy, is the power to create life, tangible living beings, right? Like us, and you give that away, and you give that away to preserve yourself, right? In a way of your choosing to live your own life in your solitude. For most men, that can be too big a sacrifice. But no matter how big the sacrifice is, it's still a legitimate, viable, legal option. And it's worth discussing. And I'm here to discuss that option for those men who want it. And I'm aware that we're talking about generally about 2%, maybe less than 2% of the general population. So I don't really foresee this blowing up in the way I don't know, like commercial news media would blow up. But there is potential. There is potential to find vasectomites who themselves will be able to utilize and use this information. And that for me is more than sufficient. I would consider that a success. I consider every video that's available for those who want it as a success, considering that I wanted this information myself and didn't find it. Now I can rest assured that the next person who does want it, at least they'll find my perspective and they can then create their own if they so choose. But this is the end of the video, and I appreciate your time and your attention. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a lovely day. I am the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, and as usual, I'm still here at the Citadel at the end of time.